We begin with breaking news out of Newport News, and it is very disturbing. Police are on the scene of a shooting inside an elementary school.
A school spokesperson says a teacher was shot at Richneck Elementary. Sources from the school system tell 10 on Your Side that a student shot that teacher.
Now, officers responded to the school on Tyner Drive just after 2 this afternoon.
Police say no children were hurt. Chopper 10 was just above this very busy scene.
We have several crews on this breaking story. 10 on Your Side's Haley Mylon is at the school right now.
Haley, what have you learned?
Hey, Regina, Stephanie, sorry, we're just keeping an eye on this here. It's still a very active scene, and first responders are moving in and out of the perimeter here. We are right up on the crime tape where Richneck Elementary School is taped off to the public. Only parents looking to reunify with their students are allowed past this tape right now. Keep in mind, this all happened less than 2 hours ago. Now, we have confirmed that an adult female teacher was shot inside of a classroom. Only one injury reported. She was transported to a local hospital for treatment. We're told by Police Chief Steve Drew that all of the students, No, I thought we were going to get new information. They're just moving first responders in and out of the scene. Students were moved to the gymnasium where officers kept them entertained and offered mental health services as the crime scene was worked on one wing of the school, and as the school worked to communicate with families about reunification. Now, it's been jarring to see some of these young children and their parents walking out after being reunified. You see tears in their eyes. Some of the kids so young that they're confused. They don't know why we're out here. They don't know why the news is out here. But we did talk to Police Chief Steve Drew. He says his department acted very quickly. It's still very early in the investigation, and there is evidence inside the school building, so he was reluctant to give too much information before all of those students' families were informed of the incident. But he did give some information about the status of that victim, and he said the response here is huge. The mayor, Philip Jones, we just spoke to him as well, and he reiterated how quick the response was from first responders, and they're still hanging out here with students, making sure that families and students are safely reunited. Take a listen to what Police Chief Steve Drew said. This was about an hour after the incident.
Main thing right now is that we got all these kids safe, and the number one priority for me is to check on our victim at the hospital and get all these students back with their families. That's the number one priority, okay? Basically around 2 o'clock, what we had is a call of a shooting inside the school. We have an adult that has suffered a gunshot wound. An employee here, she has been transported to Riverside Hospital, and we're waiting to get some updates there. What's going on at this point now is the scene is clear. There is evidence inside of the building. All the children have been moved to the gymnasium. They are safe. They're interacting with officers and having some fun, slapping some high fives and teasing each other. There's plenty of counselors here working with the students and talking to the students, remaining them calm. The number one priority for me, as I said, is to get all of our students back with their parents. So school board members are here. Dr. Parker and Richard Wright are here. They've got a system now. We're going to try to do it by grade level. So we have the elementary, if you can see behind me, there's a line there. They're just checking them in with ID. And then an officer and a school official are walking the student to their parents. So it's a good, happy reunion, a little bit of emotion. But everything right now is safe. The school has been cleared. We will still have to go in and do some crime scene processing. But that's kind of where we're at right now, okay? That's where we have at this point.
That was Police Chief Steve Drew. Again, we have families being reunited with their students walking out. I just heard a mother walking by shouting, "How does a 7-year-old get a gun?" We don't have information about the shooter confirmed to share with you, but that is the level, that is the tenseness that a lot of these parents are feeling right now. Many are outraged, upset. I did talk to one mother about a half hour ago who had tears in her eyes. Her name is Jocelyn Glover. She walked out with her son, and she described the heartbreaking, just gut-wrenching moment. She got a text message.
My heart stopped. I was freaking out, very nervous, just wondering, was that one person my son?
We're going to switch now to 10 on Your Side's Michelle Wolf.
She's live at Riverside Regional Medical Center with more on what we know about the victim's condition. Michelle?
Yeah, Lena and Tom, a lot to digest here. A 6-year-old little boy, a first grader, intentionally shot his teacher, and she's fighting for her life behind me here at Riverside Medical Center. Now, at last check, Police Chief Steve Drew said she has life-threatening injuries, but she has shown some improvement. He said that this was an isolated incident and occurred in a classroom. There were other students, other first graders in the classroom. This was not accidental. This was intentional. Police are working to find out where the firearm came from and how the child got their hands on it. And this is what we know right now. This is the newest and latest information. It just came out in a news conference a few minutes ago from Newport News. Live in Newport News, Michelle Wolf, 10 on your side. Police officers swarmed a Newport News elementary school Friday after calls of an active shooter. The suspect, a 6-year-old boy.
This was not an accidental shooting.
Newport News Police Chief Steve Drew said during a joint news conference that the child pulled a handgun during an altercation with his teacher, ultimately wounding her. Other children were in the classroom at the time, but were not injured.
Today, our students got a lesson in gun violence.
I want to know where that firearm came from. What was the situation?
Groups of children escorted by plainclothes officers in bulletproof vests to their families after an hour-long lockdown. Tracy DeBrew rushed to Richneck Elementary to pick up her grandson when she heard the news.
Where did this child go? We have to do something about this gun violence. It is taking over now. It's taking over our babies.
And this military mom who recently moved to the United States while her husband is stationed in Hampton Roads.
Let's do something. We've got a new governor now. Let's do something. Let's change it. You've got a beautiful country. You've got beautiful people. But what's the problem? Guns.
It's a dark day for Newport News. We're going to learn from this, and we're going to come back stronger.
My name is Katia Brown, and this is the first time some of you guys are hearing from me.
Cartier heard chaos break out on Friday at Richneck Elementary School. Tonight, we're going to have you listen to his own words as he continues to process what happened.
This message goes out to the Newport News school system in all of America. I don't want to speak about how I feel about that day. I'm pretty sure all of the America at this point can understand how anybody would feel. I've listened to my mom cry about the incident, and I feel as if now it's my time to speak up, not just for my school, but all the kids in America. Honestly, what has happened for you guys to put things into place to keep us safe? Not just the students, but the teachers as well. Can you close your eyes and imagine you going to work and to just have a regular work day, and then your regular work day sends you running for your life? You can't imagine it, right? So why should we? It is time to lace up and put boots to the ground. School is for learning, fun, and making friends. School is not a battleground.
How did that child know how to fire a gun? How did he have the strength to do so? That is one of the burning questions the public has. We got so much more information about this today. Chief Drew said it's an unprecedented situation. We've waited for days to get so many answers, and it's taken officials days to figure out how to get those answers and make them available to us. We learned that the teacher, Abby Zwerner, is a hero. That's how officials are heralding her as she fights for her life in the hospital. We learned that she was teaching the class as that student pulled a gun from his backpack and fired a single bullet. She took a defensive position, Steve Drew said. The bullet went through her hand and into her chest. Afterwards, she cleared her classroom and went for help. And we're told that that moment in the hallway is caught on video, and investigators can see her going down the hallway, but before she goes all the way to get medical care, she turns around and checks on her children, on her students. Now, we're told that another staff member was nearby and came into the classroom immediately after that shot was fired and restrained the student who shot the gun. We're told that when deputies came into the building and came into the classroom, that student was resisting the staff member, actually hitting her, trying to get away. That's when he went into police custody. He then met his mother at the police headquarters for questioning and then went for treatment. Now, the burning question that we have had and that the public has been asking, how did that child get his hands on a gun? Well, Police Chief Steve Drew says that he took it from his own house and the gun was purchased legally by his mother. Take a listen.
We determined that the firearm was in the residence where they lived, and the child had obtained that firearm, placed it in his backpack, and brought it to school. He was brought to school that day by his mother later that morning. The firearm was legally purchased by the child's mother out of York County. Detectives. So after
we know that that boy is too young to be criminally charged in Virginia, but he will go before a judge to consider continuation of mental health services. And we know that the Commonwealth's attorney here in Newport News has been consulted about possible charges against the gun owner. Now the investigation continues, and we asked about previous threats made against the safety of this teacher and this classroom. Police Chief Steve Drew wouldn't say much about the investigation in that regard, but the most important fact here is that the teacher, Abigail Zwerner, is doing better than she was on Friday as she fights for her life in the hospital. For now, in Newport News, Haley Mylon, 10 on your side.
A lot of information here and still a lot of questions. Haley, thank you.
Dozens of fellow teachers and people out in the community gathered at the Newport News District Administration Building to pray for 25-year-old Abby Zwerner and her students. Many are wearing green, which is one of Richneck Elementary school colors. From adults to children and even therapy dogs, the Newport News community is supporting one of their own.
And she is a trooper. She is a hero.
A circle of flames shining a light through the darkness that's been the last 3 days.
It was awful. It was truly awful.
Mandy Livingston Ham is a pre-K teacher for Newport News Public Schools.
You never dreamed that anything like this would happen, especially in an elementary school.
Ham's family is friends with the Zwerners.
She comes from a fantastic educator family. Our families live near one another, my parents and her grandfather.
Ham tells 10 on your side, Abby was excited to be teaching in person after starting her first year as an educator during COVID, being forced to teach from a screen.
She was living her dream. She was fulfilling her passion.
Ham and her fellow teachers made shirts for Monday's vigil, keeping the Richneck family in their prayers.
We are Richneck strong because when teachers band together, like I told you, we roll deep, we travel in packs like wolves, and we always want to take care of our own.
When asked how she and her fellow educators hope to move forward,
all we can do is pray that our administration will do the right thing.
As of Monday, Riverside Regional Medical Center officials confirm Zwerner is awake and talking with her family. School is canceled the rest of the week for Richneck students, and counseling services are available. In Newport News, Michelle Wolf, 10 on your side. So right now, school board members are in a closed session, and during a very quick break, board chair Lisa Searles Law came out. She read a prepared statement, and she talked about how, as of yesterday, Newport News Public Schools secured the funding for 90 state-of-the-art metal detectors, and the plan is for these metal detectors to go inside every school within the district. They will be used when students walk into the building first thing in the morning. And I kind of want to backtrack a little bit because we kind of saw this coming. And here's why. Earlier this week, during the joint news conference that happened on Monday, Superintendent Dr. George Parker alluded to this, saying that the shooting at Richneck was 100% preventable. And it's interesting because after the shooting at Heritage High School, Dr. Parker said, he told me personally he was against permanent metal detectors because he didn't want school to feel like a prison, but as of Monday, I mean, after Richneck and hearing from the community, he mentioned during this news conference that he changed his perspective. So we kind of saw this coming. Lisa Searles Law also said that there's going to be one metal detector placed in Richneck Elementary immediately. We don't know when students are going to be back in the building. We asked if they would return Monday, but we were told that there isn't a timeline for that yet. But as of immediately, there will be at least one metal detector in Richneck, and at some point metal detectors in every school in the district. We were also told that administrative changes are going to be made to Richneck. Those changes will be explained during tonight's town hall for parents. And again, there's no timeline established as for when the students will return to the school. This just came out. We're still learning some information here, and I'll have more for you later on. Live in Newport News, Michelle Wolf, 10 on your side. Tonight's town hall was for Richneck parents only, but a parent shared their access link with us. Superintendent Dr. George Parker revealed that there was a report made that the boy might have had a weapon on him when he got to school Friday morning. His backpack was searched, but nothing was found. 2.5 hours later, police were storming the school after that boy shot his first-grade teacher.
At least one administrator was notified of a possible weapon in the timeline that we're reviewing. And was aware that student there was a potential that a weapon was on campus.
A traumatized community and a school district picking up the pieces, looking to other school systems like Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 children and 2 adults were killed last May.
We've been in contact with Uvalde in Texas, who have been very gracious in communicating with us.
After 3 school shootings in 3 years, Newport News Public Schools is changing the way the district handles security. At Richneck during Thursday's town hall, Superintendent Dr. George Parker discussed requiring clear backpacks for all students at Richneck Elementary.
These are the ones we're considering right now. Newport News Public School will purchase the backpacks.
Adding doors to the 2nd grade hallway, updating the school's front entrance, and installing permanent metal detectors. Devices not just for Richneck, but all schools in the Newport News Division. School Board Chair Lisa Searles Law announced hours earlier during a news conference that the board has just secured funding for 90 state-of-the-art metal detectors. The devices can automatically identify if someone has a weapon on them without slowing down morning arrivals.
So we just got our approval to purchase them yesterday. So we are in the process of making those orders. We have requested that we get the ones for Richneck immediately.
Parent Tom Amon praised the district's decision to purchase metal detectors.
If the teachers don't believe they're being heard, and the students and the teachers don't feel they're safe, they can't teach and they can't learn.
In the meantime, Dr. Parker told Richneck parents the district is still working on when students can go back to school.
We want to make sure we have measures in place that will allow our faculty and our students, and you, our parents, to feel that your student, confidence that your student is entering a safe building on a daily basis.
Dr. Parker also told parents there will be on-site counselors available for children when they return to school. For those who are not comfortable in returning to the building, virtual learning may be an option. In the Wavy newsroom, Michelle Wolf, 10 on your side.
In a statement released through their lawyer, the parents explained some of the events that led up to the tragic shooting 2 weeks ago. What's still unclear is what pushed the boy to pull the trigger. On Thursday, we got some answers from the accused shooter's parents. In a statement today, they explained that their child suffers from what they call a, quote, acute disability. They said he was under a special care plan at the school, which included one of his parents accompanying him to class each day. They said the week of the shooting was the first time their child went to school without them. They said, quote, "We will regret our absence on this day for the rest of our lives." We spoke to a lawyer who specializes in student discipline and special education matters, but who is not working on this case. He said it sounds like this student qualified for what's called an individualized education program or an IEP.
If he has significant behaviors, then he should have had a one-on-one aide escorting him to school.
The statement also said that teacher Abby Zwerner, quote, selflessly served our son and has worked diligently and compassionately to support our family as we sought the best education and learning environment for our son. While we don't know how many school employees were working with the child, Howard says it's a burden that shouldn't have been placed entirely on Zwerner's shoulders.
We're still not paying teachers a living wage, but you expect them to work miracles when you have kids with complex disabilities.
As for the other big question in this case, how the child got a hold of a weapon and managed to get it into his classroom, well, we still don't have the answer to that. The statement simply says, quote, "Our family has always been committed to responsible gun ownership and keeping firearms out of the reach of children. The firearm our son accessed was secured." Today and tomorrow, Newport News Public Schools are offering emotional support services for students and families at Richneck Elementary. Details about how to attend those are on our website. I'm Julie Millay, 10 on your side.
The Newport News School Board fired Superintendent Dr. George Parker tonight without cause. Half of the 6-member school board brought him in 2018, and all but one changed their stance tonight, saying the district needs a reset and to move in a different direction. What school board members are calling an amicable separation after 5 years.
We do have to move in a new direction as a board.
Effective Wednesday, February 1st, Dr. George Parker will no longer serve Newport News Public Schools.
I think it is most important that the division and Dr. Parker take separate paths at this point.
Board members say it was a difficult decision after 2 weeks of closed meetings and debate. Parker board members say never had a negative evaluation, but after 3 school shootings in 18 months, the board wants to move in another direction, one focused on student discipline.
Our commitment is to our students. And out of this tragedy, we need to see opportunity.
This is not a knock on Dr. Parker's leadership, but as a whole, it requires a lot of flexibility and it requires a lot of change.
All but one voting to terminate the division superintendent.
Getting rid of someone is not going to fix this particular problem.
After what Vice Chair Terry Best said was a flood of concerns from educators and parents alike the last 3 weeks.
I do believe that we will get through this. And I support the separation agreement.
Parker will stay on payroll per his contract terms for the next 17 months. The district's executive director of special education, Michelle Mitchell, will serve as interim superintendent until a new leader is found. As part of his contract, Superintendent Dr. George Parker will receive his full salary of $251,000 and benefits through June 2024. In Newport News, Michelle Wolf, 10 on your side.
This morning, the halls of Richneck Elementary will once again be bustling with the sound of students and teachers. It's a day that's been more than 3 weeks in the making.
During that time, there's been significant changes to school and district leadership. The school safety plan has also changed. Among those changes, metal detectors. They are now the first thing students will see as they walk through the doors each morning. Chopper 10 shows the scene there over the school Friday when all was quiet. That, of course, is going to change this morning as students and teachers return. 10 on your side's Kamaria Bray is live in Newport News this morning. And Kamaria, we sure hope and pray that everyone has the best day possible today.
Absolutely, Katie, and we know that school starts just after 9 o'clock this morning, and a district spokesperson tells me that those first graders will not be returning to that same classroom where the shooting happened. In fact, there will be no learning in that room, and we do know that there's going to be a heavy police presence on school grounds today, as well as firefighters and those added security measures. We know that right when students and staff walk through the main entrance, they'll go through those newly installed metal detectors, and all students are also receiving clear backpacks. Newport News Police Chief Steve Drew says the shooting investigation continues on how that first grader got access to his mother's gun and brought it to school. The mother's lawyer claims the gun was secured. Drew spoke with our Andy Fox about the investigation process.
When I get calls about when is this going to happen, when is that going to happen, why hasn't this happened yet, why hasn't there been charges placed, I want to make sure that we don't get all caught up with the pressures from the outside and the interest, as I understand where that's coming from, and I get it. It is unprecedented. It's unprecedented for us in this city. Yeah. That we don't skip steps, that we work with our Commonwealth attorney, we get a complete investigation, we review the records that we need, we put a good packet together, we present that to Howard Gwynn and the Commonwealth attorney, who I have the utmost faith in, that we've been talking to since day one, and that they will make the ultimate determination based on the facts and what the law is where we go from here.
We're also told that various mental health specialists will be on site this week to support the Richneck school community. And contrary to some parents' wishes, there will not be any student resource officers at Richneck. The police chief tells us that the department doesn't have enough manpower to staff SROs at the elementary school level. And we're going to have more coming up in 30 minutes. Live in Newport News, I'm Kamaria Bray, 10 on your side.
A look inside Richneck Elementary School days after the shooting. These photos sent to former Superintendent George Parker as doors were installed in the first and second grade wing of the school where the shooting occurred. A parent emailed Parker claiming that she reported a threat to Richneck's principal 2 days before police say a 6-year-old shot first grade teacher Abby Warner. The parent wrote that the principal assured her the threat was handled. Yet the school didn't notify families of the threat or advise families to secure firearms for preventative measures. In a separate email, a teacher critiques administrators for not telling staff that the threat was contained. She writes, quote, "I am upset that for an hour I was locked down in my classroom trying to keep my students silent in fear that the worst was around the corner and any minute we would have a confrontation or need to run." She tells 10 on Your Side that her mind jumped to the worst case scenarios. She points to staffing shortages indicating that teachers are stretched so thin they aren't able to deal with students with behavioral issues. We also obtained responses to a recent division-wide teacher survey that was conducted last year. It shows teacher concerns well before the shooting at Richneck. The biggest issues cited, teacher shortages and student behavior. Julianne Marsh, a former assistant principal in Newport News Public Schools, wrote to the board calling for a number of changes to support teachers and students. She says it's an institutional disciplinary issue.
Schools are under tremendous pressure not to add to those discipline numbers.
And she says many administrators prioritize school image over school safety.
I think at this point it's more about damage control than it is about let's really get to the root of the problem. Is it all about image or is it more about safety at the cost of image?
Now, Mars tells me the issues we discovered aren't exclusive to Richneck Elementary School. She says that teachers are facing crises in classrooms every day. For more on our investigation, visit wavy.com. I'm Haley Milon, 10 on Your Side. The grand jury here in Newport News has indicted the mother of the little boy who police say shot his teacher at Richneck Elementary School more than 3 months ago. Now, those indictments are still sealed as she has not yet been served. That is 25-year-old Deja Taylor, the mother of the little boy who police say is the shooter in the Richneck Elementary School shooting case from January 6th. However, I was just in the courtroom. I was just in the clerk's office trying to get a copy of a petition to impanel a special grand jury to examine what happened on January 6th to see if any additional criminal charges are appropriate in this case. That petition has not even made its way down to the clerk's office. That is how new all of this news is. But again, the indictments, 2 charges, felony child neglect and misdemeanor recklessly leaving a loaded firearm so as to endanger the child. Those charges are against the boy's mother, 25-year-old Deja Taylor. Now, I reached out to Abby Warner's attorney, Abby Warner, the teacher who was shot that day. Diane Toscano released this statement to me saying there were failures in accountability at multiple levels that led to Abby being shot and almost killed. Today's announcement addresses but one of those failures. It has been 3 months of investigation and still so many unanswered questions remain. Our lawsuit makes clear that we believe the school division violated state law and are now pursuing this in civil court. We will not allow school leaders to escape accountability for their role in this tragedy. Now, remember, just last week we reported that Toscano filed a lawsuit on behalf of Warner for $40 million in damages following that shooting, trying to hold the school division and those school administrators accountable. So these 2 charges against the boy's mother, she has not yet been served.
As expected, the mother of the alleged 6-year-old gunman has turned herself into authorities in Newport News. Deputies say Deja Taylor was escorted by her attorney when she reported to the jail this morning.
Father, keep our officers safe, keep our students safe. Let us make the decisions that we need to make.
Communications to any unit on scene, the shooter is going to be in room 11.
It's hard to talk about, I think, without getting choked up. I know that officer, and Officer Watkins. He's been here a while. He has a family of his own. I thought it was very fitting, and then to see him exit his vehicle and then run towards the school I think that's what officers do every day.
The video clips are snippets of real life.
We're going great. Keep march your feet. All right, we're turning straight left. Keep march your feet, PD.
I promise you, there is no training class that I have ever seen that deals with singing to elementary kids, holding their hands, high-fiving them as you move them from one place to another, keeping them calm.
Sergeant Carter, who you see shepherding children, puts off a much different image here, Chief Steve Drew says, than the one he typically conjures up as one of the most highly trained sergeants in the department, working in SWAT and tactical training.
You can't pay somebody enough for that. You can't train that. That comes from what you feel inside.
And this inside look at the Richneck response gives the community another view of law enforcement.
The mother of the boy whom police say shot his first-grade teacher is now facing federal charges. Deja Taylor is looking at one count of unlawful use of a controlled substance while in possession of a firearm and making a false statement during the purchase of a firearm.
Federal agents say Taylor bought a 9mm gun while being a marijuana user, then lied about not using it when she purchased the weapon.
Administrators say they've appointed Jackie Barber as the new principal effective July 1st. Barber currently serves as principal of Sedgefield Elementary. The former principal of Richneck left after January's shooting of a first-grade teacher. Rhonda Chambers-Harmon will serve as the new assistant principal. Chambers-Harmon is transferring from Stony Run Elementary School, where she is assistant principal. Deja Taylor didn't make any comment as she left the courthouse after pleading guilty to these federal charges, but her attorney told us this case is a tragedy and Taylor's role in this case is a complete accident.
Deja Taylor was surrounded by family and her team of attorneys as she left the courthouse. Taylor, the mother of the 6-year-old boy who police say shot Newport News teacher Abby Zwerner, pled guilty to unlawful use of a controlled substance in possession of a firearm and making a false statement during the purchase of a firearm. The recommended sentence is 18 to 24 months, but the judge will have the final say, which caused a delay in court because Taylor's lawyers thought that was the maximum sentence she could get.
We have disagreements. And some of them are serious, some of them are over language, and we came to an agreement and we moved ahead.
This was Taylor's first appearance on these charges in federal court. Court documents say Newport News police ran a search of the firearm that was used in the shooting and it came back to Taylor. ATF agents then got a copy of Taylor's application and searched her home. They found marijuana and packaging for edibles in a garbage can 6 days after the shooting. They also found narcotics inside her home during a search on the 19th.
I want to stress that Miss Taylor, her role in this tragedy is a complete accident and a complete mistake. However, she takes full responsibility for the actions of her son and feels tremendous guilt.
At the time of the shooting, court documents say Taylor was living with her grandfather, but say she left on the 6th to stay with her mother. Those documents say a lockbox, trigger lock, or a key to the trigger lock were never found in either home.
I really believe at the end of the day, Deja Taylor will get justice and compassion.
Now, we also learned that Taylor was pulled over by Williamsburg police in April of 2021 while her son was in the car. Officers say marijuana was in plain sight and in reach of her son, who was 4 years old at the time. Other drugs were also found in the car, and we have much more on this case from our investigative team over on wavy.com.
It's outrageous. It really is as outrageous as I've ever seen.
Abby Zwerner's attorney, Jeffrey Bright, after Newport News Public Schools notified Zwerner in this email her separation of employment from the school system.
I don't think you can read this any other way other than you've been fired. And that's what she thinks. She doesn't understand it. There's no other communication. You're let go yesterday.
Newport News Public Schools says it was Zwerner who informed them in March she would not be returning. And spokesperson Michelle Price explains why she got the email. Every employee who is separating from the school division receives a similar communication. Ms. Zwerner notified the Human Resources Department that she was resigning her position as a teacher. Ms. Zwerner was an employee until June 12, 2023, the last day of her contract. Bright says Zwerner did receive a direct deposit from the school system earlier in the year, but she sent it back.
They tried to see if she would cash the workers' comp check so that they could claim, oh, look, she took workers' comp. She can't sue us now.
Bright says this is not a worker comp issue, limiting what Zwerner can receive for damages. She is now seeking $40 million for what happened in a classroom, which she claims was not part of the job.
From a litigation standpoint, it's one of the dumbest things you could ever do, honestly. And the jury's going to hear about it. It's part of her damages. She hasn't been paid, and then they fired her while she's out on disability. It doesn't make any sense.
Bright thinks he will win the not a worker comp case argument and plans on calling other school teachers.
And I plan on asking every first grade teacher under oath, did you think that getting shot by one of your 6-year-old students was part of your job description?
Our investigative team has learned that Deja Taylor is at the center of several police reports involving Malik Ellison. That's the father of the little boy. Ellison has been convicted of assault against 2 women, including Deja Taylor. 2 years before a little boy shot and seriously hurt his first grade teacher, Abby Zwerner, he was in a car with his mom and dad when they got pulled over in Williamsburg and were found surrounded by drugs. Police say during that 2021 traffic stop, they found marijuana, suspected crack cocaine, suspected oxycodone, and a smoking device. Police say they also found marijuana edibles that looked like rice treats within reach of the boy, who was just 4 years old at the time. The boy's father, Malik Ellison, wasn't even supposed to be in the car. Deja Taylor had taken out a protective order against him after he assaulted her 7 months before. In September of 2020, Taylor told police that Ellison showed up to her home uninvited, hit her in the face, and threw her to the ground. Ellison was found guilty of assault and battery. Also in 2020, Taylor reported that Ellison was stalking her and showed up to her home with a gun and assaulted her. Then, in August 2021, Ellison was accused of assaulting another woman he was dating. The woman told police she and Ellison argued over suspected infidelity between him and Deja Taylor. Ellison attacked that woman in her home, pushing her down on a bed with his hands around her neck, threatening to kill her. He pled guilty to assault in that case. Malik Ellison is currently wanted after failing to show up for a court date.
Police arrived at Richneck Elementary School on January 6th to find a 6-year-old boy being restrained by a school employee and a loaded 9mm handgun on the floor. That employee told police the boy admitted to shooting his teacher, saying, "I shot that bee dead, and I did it. I got my mom's gun last night." His mom, Deja Taylor, told detectives she believed the gun was in her purse with a trigger lock on top of her bedroom dresser the morning of the shooting, and that the key for the lock was kept under her mattress. Detectives also interviewed the teacher, Abby Zwerner, who told them the boy had several disciplinary incidents in the past. Detectives then interviewed the child's former kindergarten teacher, who said the child placed both of his arms around her neck, pulling down, choking her to the point she could not breathe. A teacher assistant had to forcibly remove him from the classroom. Court papers indicate that incident was not found in the limited records detectives received, and they believed that incident and possibly others were not readily provided by the Newport News Public Schools. Zwerner is suing the school district for $40 million. Her attorneys declined comment. The attorney for the boy's mother, James Ellison, told me, "The child, he's obviously got a lot of issues, and he's in therapy. We're all pulling for his continued improvement."
The prosecution says the 6-year-old, referred to only as JT, was defiant after he had taken his mother's 9mm pistol to school and shot his teacher, Abby Zwerner. JT told authorities, "F you, I shot my teacher," and he punched a staff member who was restraining him in the face. The child also reportedly said, "I stole that gun from my mom. I needed to shoot my teacher." His mother, Deja Taylor, had left the gun in her purse, and the child stood on a dresser drawer to reach it. But Taylor was worried enough about her car keys to keep them in a lockbox. Have you asked her why she would lock up the car keys but not the gun?
We haven't discussed those kinds of things.
The Commonwealth says the 6-year-old told Zwerner 2 days before the shooting, "I'm never coming back to your room, you B." The child had played with a gun at his grandmother's home in the days before the shooting and had asked his mother to take him to a gun range. Her attorney says she does have remorse for what happened to Zwerner, who's suing the school division and several educators for $40 million.
She feels very responsible, feels very bad, and I think that's part of just the general irritability, anxiety, depression, and everything else.
A moment of appreciation during Tuesday night's school board meeting for the police officers who protect and serve the Newport News community and the city's public schools.
Following several tragic events that impacted our school communities, the Newport News Police Department committed to ensuring the well-being, safety, and security of our students and staff.
School Board Chair Lisa Searles-Law awarded Police Chief Steve Drew and his department a resolution of thanks. Meanwhile, former Newport News police officer and new executive director of the district's crisis planning, prevention, and response team, Robert Stewart, presented the public with a safety update for the start of school.
As you know, our safety plan is layered and involves many different pieces.
45 new school resource officers, 10 substitute officers, and 3 SRO supervisors this 2023-2024 school year.
It'll be mirrored with our police department's north, south, and central precincts, and that will allow these 3 supervisors to move quickly from school to school.
The officers, Stewart says, have undergone new training with a focus on being more proactive.
To solve problems before bad things happen.
In addition to looking for problems, every school is now equipped with a weapons detection system, including the district's administration building. And clear backpacks will be handed out to all students at the start of school.
Well, this year, a major change is heading for Newport News Public Schools. We're talking about clear book bags. I sat down with Mark Stewart, who is the new Executive Director of Crisis Prevention, Planning, and Environmental Management. His position was created following the Richneck Elementary School shooting. He's responsible for overall safety in the schools. Stewart says they're not overhauling the current security protocol in the school system, but are making tweaks, adding things and cleaning up the language in certain policies. I asked him what his response was to safety professionals who say clear book bags are all for show. Stewart says it's just one part of a host of security checkpoints.
If I was to sit here and tell you that the clear backpacks were the only layer of security we had, it would be a failure. The clear backpacks for the Newport News school system are a layer of security, not the layer for security. So if you think about the clear backpacks, it is a deterrent for students bringing contraband into the schools because everyone, teachers, staff, security staff, can see into that book bag. Now, they say that you could put a gun and wrap it up in let's say a sandwich bag, but you can't get that gun through our weapons detectors. So the weapons detecting systems are another layer of security. The training for our security staff is another layer of security.
He says there's also been concern about students getting through that weapons detection system at a rapid pace. Well, he says if a student's book bag were to cause it to go off, he says security will be able to search through it faster and more efficiently, lowering that overall waiting time. And I also learned each student will get a small container that is not clear to put private items in. We'll have more on school security in Newport News coming up at 6:45.
Her attorneys wanted no prison time. They wanted probation only. But Chief Judge Mark Davis said this was a case that cried out for incarceration. It also marked the first time that we heard the voice of Abby Zwerner since this January 6th incident. She read a statement that she had prepared for the court. Zwerner described how she was shot through her left hand into the left side of her chest, and bullet fragments remain in both locations. She's had 5 surgeries and has ongoing intense physical therapy. Zwerner says she has continuous nightmares and will never be able to teach again. Taylor was convicted on 2 charges relating to possession of a gun while using drugs and lying about it on an ATF form when she bought the gun in July 2022. This is 5 months before her 6-year-old son shot Zwerner in the first grade classroom. Judge Davis described a direct route from that gun purchase in York County to the Richneck shooting and says Taylor missed several off-ramps, bad choices. Taylor has used marijuana, by the way, since she was 16. And she was prohibited from using drugs while on pretrial bond, but she failed repeatedly. Mr. Rossi, 8 failed drug tests since January 6th. What do you think was going through her mind? Did she not have any sense of deterrence at all?
Addiction is a disease. And as I said, mass incarceration is not the cure. She is incredibly remorseful. She is filled with guilt, and at no time did she intend or foresee the consequences of what she did.
Deja Taylor already serving 21 months. Now, after today, 2 more years on top of that, and her attorney not happy.
We think it was excessive, and I think there are guidelines for a reason, and I think the guidelines were adequate in this case, and I just respectfully disagree with Judge Papille.
Ellison spoke with his client after sentencing. She was disappointed and sad. The judge says he went outside the agreed upon sentencing guidelines because Deja Taylor's level of neglect for her son for 6 years at the time of the shooting.
I don't think that took into account her being the victim of domestic abuse, her mental health issues, and the substance abuse.
Only on 10, we spoke with Deja's grandfather, who has custody of his now 7-year-old great-grandson.
What are you going to tell your great-grandson?
I'm going to have to tell him the truth, that mom's not coming home for a while.
I noticed tears in your eyes.
No, I'm angry. There's no tears. I'm just angry. I'm angry at the system. I'm angry at Newport News School Board. I'm angry at my granddaughter. I'm angry at everybody right now.
Abby, what did you think of the sentence?
We're not going to make any comment today, but thank you.
Zwerner would not speak after the hearing, but on the stand says she has limited motion in her hand. She suffers from PTSD. She's fearful. She can't sleep. Claims she's lost her purpose. And a great-grandfather has now become a dad to a 7-year-old.
My grandmother used to tell me things, and guess what? Sometimes I listened. So maybe Deja will listen now. I don't know. I hope she does.
Have you had communication with her?
No.
Is that intentional, or is she not talking to you, or?
I just haven't talked to her.
Ellison says he's now considering an appeal because he says the judge took into factors that were not presented as evidence. In Newport News, Andy Fox, 10 on your side.